Yo, what is up guys, and welcome back to McAD's Entertainment. I'm your host as always, Adam McGahee. Might notice that the background looked a little bit different. No zombie Deadpool or Darth Vader in the back hanging out. I'm currently on vacation with my family in Sleepy Hollow, celebrating spooky season with them, but I wanted to get another video out for you guys. You may have noticed my zombie Wolverine shirt that I'm sporting today, which I did get on Amazon. I think you can get them around like $20-25 bucks. You just gotta look up Marvel Zombie shirt. I think I just typed in zombie Wolverine shirt and it popped up. That's where I got mine, not gatekeeping. Just go on Amazon, zombie Wolverine. He'll be there. Anyways, to celebrate the countdown to Halloween, got yet another Marvel Zombies video for you guys. And since I'm wearing the zombie Wolverine shirt, I wanted to do another collection of re-uploads, and that's going to be on our boy Zombie Wolverine. The first video in this collection is going to be the story of the OG zombie Wolverine from the original Marvel Zombies line of comics, and the next is going to be about a forgotten zombie Wolverine from the underrated X-Men series from the early 2000s called The Exiles. Oh, and as a bonus story for you guys, I'm also throwing in the entirety of Venom War Wolverine as well, which shows our boy Wolverine fighting Marvel Zombies symbiotes of all things. And as always guys, our free 2-week superhero training plan is live. If you visit us on Instagram at McAD's Fitness, click the link in the bio. It's going to give you access to my free 2-week superhero training plan. Of course, it's going to be 2 weeks. It's kind of like a free trial to my program. But if you guys want more advanced one-on-one trainings, those are paid. Shoot me a message on Instagram with the code SUPER and we can talk some options. With that out of the way though guys, let's get on with what you came here for, and that is Wolverine's insane history with Marvel Zombies. Who is he? Zombie Wolverine is one of the countless superheroes infected by a virus that turned him into a violent flesh-eating cannibal. He made his first appearance in the pages of Ultimate Fantastic Four number 22 back in 2005. He comes from Earth 2149, but his life prior to the infection was very similar to his main universe counterpart from Earth 616. Of course, all of that changed when an alternate version of the hero known as the Sentry came to Earth and infected dozens of Earth's mightiest heroes, turning them into unstoppable flesh-hungry savages. In the early days of the pandemic, Wolverine and his fellow X-Men battled an infected Alpha Flight at Professor X's school for higher learning. During the battle, the mutants were saved by their former rival Magneto, who was one of the greatest resistance fighters at the time. Knowing this threat was far greater than themselves, the mutants put their differences to rest and teamed up to combat the zombies in the streets of New York. Now whenever Magneto and the X-Men put stuff aside, you know it's going down. So dope. I love it. The epic team-ups would continue as Nick Fury then contacted the still human heroes and had them all gather aboard the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier so they could strategize on how to put an end to things. The likes of Reed Richards and Tony Stark were tasked with finding a potential cure, while Wolverine was part of a ground team sent to combat the Horde and keep them at bay. It was during this mission that Logan was overwhelmed by a zombie Colonel America and Hawkeye, who simultaneously bit the mutant, infecting him with the virus. While normally his healing factor would prevent a disease like this from affecting him, it was sadly no match for the otherworldly power of the virus, thus transforming the warrior into a member of the Cannibal Legion. I can't say I necessarily agree with this, as Wolverine should be immune to just about every disease. But hey, it's honestly probably just me being a little selfish. I would have loved to have seen the guy be a long-term resistance fighter, just slicing up zombies and regenerating the chunks of flesh that bite out of them. Imagine a video game where you're just taking apart zombies as Wolverine. Now that would be awesome. Okay, fanfiction over. The now zombified Logan and his fellow cannibals then discovered that an uninfected Dr. Doom was harboring Latverian refugees at his castle and had even constructed a portal to lead them to safety in another dimension. The hungry gang then stormed the castle to get access to these refugee sandwiches. Ash Williams, yes, the groovy man from the Evil Dead movies, was also here at this time and consulted the use of the evil book known as the Necronomicon. He used it to summon and resurrect the half-eaten corpses left behind by the zombies, turning them into an army of evil dead. The Deadite Legion then arrived at the castle and went to full-on zombie-on-zombie war with Wolverine and the others, only to be quickly sliced down by the hangry mutants. I mean, what do you think was going to happen? these zombies just have hands. Wolverine's a zombie with hands and claws. Zombie Wolverine for the win. As the horde breaks into the castle, Ash and the refugees manage to escape as Doom destroys the portal. Before getting away, Ash threw the evil book at the zombies so it could be eaten, only for Wolverine to tell it they only eat flesh and proceeds to give it to the Hulk. Hulk then proclaims that since they do eat so much of that yummy gummy meat, they do poop a lot and can use its magical pages as toilet paper. I actually felt pretty bad for the Necronomicon here. Definitely scarred for life after this one. Upon Doom's destruction of the portal machine, Reed Richards infects him and repairs it. He is then able to use it to communicate with and trick a younger alternate version of himself from the Ultimate Universe to come to their world, thinking that they would be able to work on projects together. Instead of having a little dimensional study and chill date, the young Reed was terrified upon entering this dimension, seeing that had been ravaged by hordes of undead supers. He managed to escape the zombified Fantastic Four, where he is then saved by Magneto, who led him to safety with a small band of survivors in the subway tunnels of New York. Thinking that they were safely packed away from the gaze of the super cannibals, the group would soon be in danger as Zombie Wolverine just happened to be out on patrol. He was able to use his heightened senses to smell the sweet taste of living flesh and led his band of fellow undead brothers right to the survivor camp. Magneto then uses his abilities to whack the horde with a subway train, where they proceed to escape. My boy, he just stays winning. With the aid of the other Ultimate Fantastic Four members, Magneto is able to hold off the zombies, where he then leads the remaining humans to the portal, who get away to the Ultimate Dimension with the Fantastic Four. He says his goodbyes and proceeds to blow the machine up, locking him in the zombieverse, surrounded by Wolverine and a group of angered undead. This then sets off an intense chase between Magneto and the zombies, who were quite adamant in turning the Master of Magnetism into their latest snack. Despite being insanely exhausted, Magneto still proved he had plenty of fight left in him, as he managed to cut Colonel America's head in half with his own shield, decapitated Hawkeye, and even brought an entire building upon the Avengers. My dude is OP. Like I said, he stays winning. However, Magneto then gets a little too caught up in the moment and proceeds to gloat, but not before Zombie Wasp came in and bit out his throat. Oh no. I'm speaking in rhymes! Wasp then held the immobilized Magneto as Wolverine and the others swarmed in and completely devoured this former villain turned hero. RIP to one of the coolest X-Men characters ever. After their magnetic meal, Logan and the gang kick back, wondering where their next feast would come from. As all hope seemed lost, thinking that they had picked the world clean, Wolvie and the gang then witnessed the arrival of the Silver Surfer, who came to announce the arrival of his master Galactus, who intended to consume the entire planet. Not listening to a word shiny Mr. Clean said, the zombies leapt at the chance to get a bite of the chrome-plated warrior. As they attacked, the Surfer proved he was much more than a cool guy on a flying surfboard, and proceeded to zap his assailants with waves of cosmic energy. He even blasted Iron Man right in half, who, despite no longer even having a full digestive tract, still tried to take a bite out of the man. Disgusted and disturbed, the Silver Boy then chucks Zombie Tony off his board, who falls into the streets below. I love how this panel is drawn. It looks like he's just kind of inconvenienced that someone would even dare touch him or his surfboard. It's like he's some snooty waiter throwing someone out of a fancy restaurant. I love it. Never change Silver Surfer. Zombie Thor then comes thundering down with his makeshift hammer and knocks our Chrome Boy off his board, causing him to come falling to the ground. The Surfer then proves the tank that he is by cranking up the intensity and continues to blast more undead, killing several of them in the process. Wolverine, thinking this was his time to shine, jumps into the fray and lunges at the Surfer Hugh Jackman style. This causes his adamantium claws to scrape up against the Surfer's near indestructible skin, causing his bones to tear right out of his skin. Yeah man, I'm no doctor when it comes to Wolverine biology, but I don't think that's supposed to happen. Wolverine then reminisces over his lost healing factor, which was overpowered by the virus, and then proceeds to just pull the remaining bone and flesh from his wrecked arm, and just cuts the rest of it off. My man, giving even Deadpool a run for his money. He then comes across the remaining better half of Iron Man, who asks the mutant to toss him back into the fight so he can get another taste. The pair then do their best Aragorn and Gimli impression as our boy Logan whips the undead billionaire back into the battle. That's true friendship right there. As the Surfer continues to defeat more of the Horde, none other than a zombified Hulk evens the playing field and joins the fight. He proceeds to grab the shiny man and bites his head clean off, causing all sorts of static electricity looking gore to just come pouring out. Wolverine and a handful of the boys then manage to claw their way, pun intended, to the Surfer's chrome-plated corpse, where they then help themselves to a nice silver-wrapped dessert. Upon consuming the poor spaceman, the gang see that this was some pretty nutrient-dense food, where they discover they gained his incredible abilities, which allowed them to shoot cosmic blasts out of their hands. They then decide to become cosmic chefs as they fry the rest of their zombie compatriots with these new powers to see if it made them taste any better. But alas, they discover that no matter how much you cook a zombie, dead meat is still dead meat. It's like trying to reheat a McDonald's burger in the microwave that's been sitting in the refrigerator for a few days. It just doesn't work. Once they finish eating up their buddies, the Cosmic Zombie Bros then discover that Shiny Man was telling the truth, and the World Conqueror Galactus had arrived to the planet announcing its destruction. Seeing that they had just won the giant fleshy lottery, the zombies tried to attack the space giant, only to realize he was about as tough as a Dark Souls boss. Seeing that retreat was the wisest choice, our one-armed Wolverine and the group escape to Hank Pym's lab, where he, Bruce Banner, and Tony Stark make a machine that could channel all of their cosmic abilities into one unified beam. They complete the weapon, aim it at the big boy and fire, causing a huge obligatory blue comic book laser to shoot out and strike the guy, causing him to scream out in pain and come tumbling to the ground. Seeing that the hard work was now done, a gang of zombie villains come out of hiding, all ready to help themselves and mooch up the hero's food. They are then intercepted by Zombie Wolverine and the Avengers, who let them know that this hunt was all theirs. The boys then go to zombie war with their former rivals, which results in Wolverine going up against a zombified Juggernaut. Despite being one of the most powerful mutants around, he was no match for a cosmic-fueled Logan, who jammed his claws right into Juggernaut's mouth, activated his powers, and flicked the dude's giant head right off like it was a pimple.
Fatality. Wolverine wins.
Now in zombie rage mode, Cannibal Wolvie and his gang of merry flesh-eating men then proceed to kill the rest of the villains, including the likes of Sabretooth and Dr. Octopus. Galactus then proves he is not quite dead yet, as he gets up, swearing revenge on these hellish creatures for injuring him. Before he could finish his big villain monologue, Wolverine and the boys leap onto the World Conqueror, tearing him open, and commence to help themselves to an all-you-can-eat purple spandex man feast. Upon fully eating Galactus, Logan and the other zombies then level up their cosmic powers and become the next Galactus themselves, traveling planet to planet, completely consuming its citizens, all while in purple cosmic jumpsuits. So beating Galactus is a lot like a much more messed up version of the Santa Claus. You kill the guy, but you get to become him and get his suit. Sounds like a good plan to me. Wolverine and his new galactic group then eventually find their way to the Skrull homeworld, where they slice, dice, and kebab their way through the Skrull citizens, completely devastating the planet. During their cannibalistic conquest, he and the other Avengers would do battle with a dimensionally displaced Black Panther and Fantastic Four. Panther and the heroes would escape, where Wolvie and his homies would proceed to devour the remaining planet inhabitants. The Hulk then gives the group the idea to tap into the full power they inherited from Galactus, and they then use it to legit eat the entire planet. Man, if you thought Wolverine escaping his hot tub and tearing through the Weapon X scientist was scary, just imagine one who will straight up stab you, eat you, and then eat your planet. Yeah, you know what? I don't want to imagine that. I'm good. Logan and the Cosmic Cannibals then spend the next 40 years going through the cosmos, eating everything and everyone in sight until they reach the edge of the universe and realize that they had picked the entire galaxy nearly clean of life. During his travels, our boy got this sick robot arm with claws in replacement for the one he lost back during the Silver Surfer fight. Not gonna lie, it looks pretty awesome. The messed up zombie family then remember the dimensional machine from Reed Richards and decide to head back to Earth to fix it and access a whole multiverse of unending food. En route to their home, the gang then stop for some fast food and help themselves to Peter Quill's dad, Ego the Living Planet, although a much gooier looking version than what we saw in the movies. Kurt Russell has seen better days. The group then make their way back to Earth, where they discover that Black Panther had survived the infection and created New Wakanda, where he and the survivors attempted to rebuild society. An impatient Hulk immediately jumps down and begins tearing his way through the last few humans, only to be stopped by Giant Man, who demanded him to stop so they would not run out of food so quickly again. He proposed harvesting these humans so they could turn them into a breeding program to create an unlimited flesh source. Upon hearing these hellish words, Spidey and Luke Cage finally come to their senses after all this time and rebel against Wolverine and the zombies who go to battle with them. During the fight, New Wakanda Chief Scientist Reynolds projects a shield around Wakanda, locking Wolverine and most of the other zombies out. Vowing to find a way back in, Logan and the remaining Avengers travel to Reed Richards' Baxter building to get access to the multiverse portal. Upon battling the system's security, the group realized the machine was taken by Forge and was at New Wakanda all along. The infuriated zombies return and go to war with T'Challa and the Resistance. During the commotion, the shield is mistakenly lowered and the undead rush inside to help themselves to some nice survivor sardines. Upon locating them, Giant Man and the boys prepare to feast, only to discover that there is a startling change in their biology. After all this time without food, their desire for flesh had faded, and for the first time in 40 years, the Marvel zombies were no longer hungry. Upon hearing this, Wolverine did not believe it and went to sink his teeth into one of the humans, only for Giant Man and the others to explain the situation. Logan then let the man go, ready to help right the wrongs he and the others had done over the years. However, there was one still very hangry Avenger left, and that of course was the Hulk, who busted through the wall Kool-Aid Man style, ready for some long-awaited meat. Wolverine and the heroes tried to stop the rampaging monster, but he let nothing get in his way and proceeded to brutally murder several of those who opposed him. The carnage only ended when the scientist Reynolds approached the beast and allowed himself to be eaten as sacrifice. Hulk gladly took the dude up on his offer and gobbled him up, while Wolverine and the others watched in horror at the monsters that they had been for so long. Just like his fellow Avengers, Hulk realized his hunger too had faded and he reverted back into zombie Bruce Banner. He pleaded with Logan and the others that the only way to end this nightmare was to kill him. The gang agreed, and they used their cosmic power to blast off Banner's head, marking the end of the once incredible Hulk. Later on, the group would have a memorial for their fallen heroes and work with the survivors to help repair what had been lost. Logan and the remaining Avengers would then gather at the dimensional portal so they can use it to go to different worlds and gather supplies to help rebuild. The mission was co-led by one of the Resistance leaders, Malcolm Cortez, but the whole thing ended up being a double cross by him, who turned the machine on and transported the zombies elsewhere, leaving him as New Wakanda's forced new ruler. While this was the initial end to Zombie Wolverine's story, it would then be revived from the dead in the pages of Marvel Zombies Return. After being transported through the machine, Wolverine and the others would be separated into different parts of the dimension World Z, which was a world very similar to theirs before the infection broke out. Due to this dimensional travel, it altered Wolverine's cells, causing him to lose his cosmic power and made his hunger return, therefore spreading the infection to this world. This caused him to become mentally unstable and would then lurk in the shadows of Japan, eating the city's homeless so he would not attract attention to himself. As time went on, Wolverine became more confident and therefore decided to hunt out in the open, which caused him to track down the kitty pride of this earth, who is being hunted by the ninja crime group known as the Hand. Just when you thought things couldn't get any cooler in a zombie story, they throw ninjas in there. Ninjas make everything cooler. He would then brutally murder and eat the ninjas and set his eyes on Kitty, who was shocked and disturbed at what this Wolverine had become. Just before he could catch her, Zombie Spider-Man located Logan and slammed him into a wall and rescued Kitty, where he told her he was working on a vaccine that would cure the zombies of their hunger. In order to complete this vaccine, he would need a sample of this universe's uninfected Wolverine's blood. After the pair got away, Wolverine continued eating the corpses of the ninjas, much to the horror and disgust of Sunfire, who attacked Logan, sending him crashing into a nearby fight club. Zombie Logan then proceeds to kill several of the heroes in the club, including Sunfire, Iron Fist, Elektra, and even lops Shang-Chi's hand clean off. Nobody does that to my king. He is then intercepted by this world's Wolverine, who vows to put an end to this nightmarish, shambling, and rather stinking alternate version of himself. The two Wolverines engage in a bloody battle, where they are then attacked by zombie versions of the Hand that Undead Logan created. Just when ninjas in a zombie story couldn't get any cooler, they then turn them into zombie ninjas. Marvel Zombies Return, definitely checking all the boxes for me on this one. The pair tear the zombie ninjas apart and then proceed to engage in round 2 of their fight. Kitty Pryde and Spider-Man arrive to the scene, where Kitty assists by stabbing zombie Wolverine in the eye with a stake, where he is then literally cut to pieces by this world's Logan, marking the death of the original Zombieverse Wolverine. Spidey then gives Logan the whole story about what happened, which completely blows the man's mind, despite the undead encounter he just had like 5 minutes ago. He gives Spidey his blood sample, who then swings off, vowing to help save everyone. Things seem to be resolved at the moment, until it is revealed that this Wolverine was also infected at some point during the confrontation. Dude, you just need to go Walking Dead style and chop that thing off. We can't have another zombie Wolverine on our hands. Unfortunately, this Logan was infected and transformed into a zombie sometime after this. However, with the help of Spider-Man, he is able to resist his hunger and then teams up with the Wallcrawler, an alternate zombie Hulk, and Rhodey of this dimension, who is the new Iron Man, and they form the new Avengers. The group then goes to war with the other zombified heroes of this realm who wish to spread the virus across the universe. This battle even pit Wolverine up against a zombie version of the Sentry, who is basically Marvel's Superman. During the fight, he was able to gut Sentry's stomach open, causing tons of energy to come pouring out. This then does make me wonder if Wolverine could just maybe cut Superman if he wanted to. I'm sure I'll get attacked for this in the comments, but hey, I'm an agent of chaos. As the battle raged on, this new zombie Wolverine enacted Spider-Man's secret plan when he tossed a jar at the infected. Now, this was not just your everyday jar of dirt, it just so happened to contain none other than Flint Marko's Sandman. Prior to the fight, the new Avengers worked to modify Sandman's body, where they ladened it with special nanites created by Tony Stark that consumed necrotic tissue. Sandman then flooded the area with his body, which resulted in the deaths of all the zombies there, this world's Wolverine included. R.I.P. to Zombie Wolverine number 2. Anyways, despite thinking I covered everything I could about our leg-eating Logan, there's a complete side story about the guy that I completely missed, and it comes from the mid-2000s run of Marvel Comics called The Exiles. In issues 85 and 86 of this run, they basically did an entire Spider-Verse story featuring Wolverine. So the Wolviverse? The Renaverse? Ah, I got it. How about enter the Hugh Jackaverse? You know what? That sounds kinda wrong said out loud. Although, maybe it's just right. Anyways, in this story, we see a diverse assortment of Wolverines from different dimensions, summoned by a being called the Time Broker, who brought the men to this world to battle a being called Brother Mutant, who was originally a gender-swapped and absolute baddie of a Magneto, who was fused with Wolverine, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and Mesmero, basically making a beyond Omega level mutant god thing, which basically seems to be something a 5-year-old would create when playing with his action figures. So in other words, freaking awesome. While these Wolverines featured some iconic ones such as Patch and the ones from Days of Future Past, we also got some other Logans such as one fresh out the Weapon X program, a child Wolverine from the 1800s, and a literal cyborg. One of the most interesting ones from this group would be a zombie version of our favorite X-Man. While I initially believed this to be the original zombie Wolverine from Earth 2149, this Logan is actually from Earth 6195, which is another dimension that suffered a near identical fate to that of 2149, with one key difference being that this Wolverine never got the chance to get the power cosmic and travel to space with his fellow Avengers and pillage the galaxy. Instead, this zombie Wolverine was brought to fight this multiversal war, kicking off the events of this story. Surprisingly being quite civil unlike his 2149 counterpart, this zombie Logan showed a higher form of self-control amidst his variants, where he did not immediately try to eat them, and even broke up a potential fight between them when they first met. Man, a Marvel zombie that doesn't try to eat someone on sight? He's already my favorite! With the group being led by the Days of Future Past Wolverine, the men soon came across a whole army of fellow Wolverine variants, who too were sent here by the Time Broker, but failed their mission, got mind-controlled by Brother Mutant, turning them into his huge army of huge jacked men. Man, this story is straight out of Rick and Morty or something, and I absolutely love it. Going to war with the other Logans, Zombie Wolverine figured now would be the time to let loose, where he began to chow down on any of the others who got in his way. Eventually, Future Past Logan, an extremely British-looking Oliver Twist Logan, would get teleported to the Time Broker's facility, where we would see his true form, which was a group of highly intelligent bugmen who revealed that they summoned all these Wolverines because their supercomputer created an equation to defeating Brother Mutant, and the solution to this equation was Wolverine. However, they weren't exactly all that bright, as they were not entirely sure on how to implement that plan, and just kept summoning more and more Wolverines, who either kept dying, or were getting mind-controlled. Geez man, all these Wolverines and you don't call him the best one? That's why you keep failing? Things would eventually cut back to the battlegrounds, where we'd see Cyborg Wolverine and his android companion Elsie roughed up quite a bit after the war with their variants, where they would go to check in on their homies, only to see that Zombie Logan was enjoying himself a bit too much on this earth and had completely eaten several other Wolverines, where he ended up looking like me after a typical Friday night of pizza and wings. Revealing that he ate at least 6 Logans whole, the now rotund rotting Logan and his allies would come across Patch, whom they thought was killed by the mob, only to see that he was now basically a Manchurian candidate for Brother Mutant, as he too was now mind-controlled and immediately sliced Zombie Logan's head off and tore his cyborg variant to pieces. However, during the commotion, Elsie was able to take advantage of the chaos, where she managed to grab the zombie's still living, or should I say, unliving head, where they made their escape. They would come to discover that Brother Mutant and the Wolverines, which honestly sounds like a sick band name, would plan to eliminate all humans across the multiverse. They would soon be tracked down by Patch once again, who went to destroy the pair, where he was soon intercepted by Sabretooth, who was a member of the Exiles during this time, where he managed to kill the man, much to the admonishment of his team members, as Patch was pretty important to his timeline and could have been saved. With the Exiles teaming up with Alpha Flight, which even consisted of Spider-Man 2099 at this time, the heroes went to war with Brother Mutant and his forces, which quickly seemed like a losing battle. That is, however, until Elsie, Zombie Logan's head, and Sabretooth came up with a plan where the mutant swung the pair around like a slingshot and launched them at the mutant like a literal cannonball, where they slammed into the man, sending him to the ground. Elsie then showed the world that not even an Omega level mutant was safe from the Marvel Zombies virus, where she then prepared Zombie Logan's head, where she then had him bite the guy right on the nose, where she then activated her self-destruct sequence, causing a massive explosion that killed Zombie Wolvie and everything else around him. Well, everything wouldn't be quite dead, as the now zombified God Mutant would swear revenge on the Wolverines for doing this to him. However, the zombie virus would work in their favor as he was now weakened, giving Days of Future Past Logan time to lunge into the man's chest, where he began to tear into him, but not before Brother Mutant unleashed a powerful blast, killing the hero in the process. This would awaken a primal rage within the young Logan, who saw this Wolverine as a father figure, where he then activated his bone claws and his inner Hugh Jackman on the villain, completely tearing him to shreds, where even some onlooking Wolverines were shocked at just how violent this kid was. With this multiverse now saved, these other Wolverines were able to return back to their realities to fight another day. The story opens in a bar in the middle of Manhattan, where we see a group of men playing pool. Getting a little too into the game, one of the men mistakenly shot one of the balls right into a patron's face. Not even checking to see if the guy was okay, the player rudely told the man he was in the way, where we see this wasn't just any guy, but rather it was the famed and feared X-Man, the Wolverine, who was not too keen on the disrespectful youth's attitude. With the whole bar and this guy looking on in horror at the mutant, we see Logan smile and tip his hat at the kid, telling him to relax, saying that he was not the violent, bloodthirsty brawler that he once was. Breathing a sigh of relief that he didn't come home in a body bag, the man called one of his homies to fanboy out on how he just met one of the X-Men, where he noticed bizarre noises coming from the bar's air ducts. Thinking that the ducts must have been clogged for the moment, the man continued his conversation, where we would see that they were indeed clogged. However, this wasn't just your typical dust or mold buildup. This was a twisted, mutated, and vengeful symbiote which pressed its way through the ducts and slammed the young man into the wall, where it made its way upon him. With things cutting back to the bar, we would see the patron's attention turn to one of the women who was watching the news on her phone, which cut to a breaking news story of more of these symbiote-like webs enveloping large parts of the city. Wondering just what Spider-Man had gotten himself into, Logan felt multiple balls hit him from behind. Slightly more aggravated this time, Logan, thinking this was the same kid from before, threatened to bring out a taste of the old Wolverine, where we would see that not all was right, for the youth had been mutated by the symbiote, turning him into a zombie-like creature, where he was accompanied by what appeared to be a venomized human corpse. Unnerved by this ghastly sight, Wolverine engaged the duo, who viciously attacked him and the bar goers. Stabbing the corpse creature with one of the pool cues, Logan told the people to run, where he proceeded to beat the monster down with a stick, all while trying to talk some sense into the venomized man from before. He then tells the youth that this corpse had been dead for at least a week before being possessed, but he was still alive, and there was still time to save him. Reaching out his hand to help, it would appear Logan may have broken through to this man, where we had realized this was false, as the symbiote leapt upon him, where it attempted to consume our hero. Lifting the monster into the air, Wolverine tapped into his animalistic rage, where he slammed it upon the broken pool cue, taking it out of commission. At least, for now. With the bartender asking if Wolverine was alright, we would see the mutant was far from okay, as the symbiote-infected black blood had splashed upon his face, where it soon infected him, spreading across his entire body. Telling the woman he had been taken over by a symbiote before, this time it was different. It was darker, and somehow more chaotic than it ever had been. Beyond his control, Logan activated his claws, where he transformed into a nightmarish zombie-like creature, where he went to attack the horrified woman. Managing to gain just enough control of his body back, the zombiote Wolverine tossed himself through the bar window and into the streets, where the citizens looked on in terror at this mutated monstrosity that was once this famed hero. Frantically making his way to his motorcycle, Wolverine sped away to avoid hurting others, where he once again remarked how this symbiote was different from the others. Unlike symbiotes like Venom, this one had been dead before, and was in a space between life and death. Getting torn between his most painful memories, one that Logan locked onto was that of a mysterious and frightened mother and child. Blacking out, we would see Wolverine's unconscious body be discovered by a young boy in a mysterious snow-covered town. As Logan would come to, we'd find out that this boy was named Flynn, and his mother was instantly recognized by the X-Man as Emily, remembering her as the woman from his dream. In a flashback, we'd come to see that Wolverine had met this pair years ago, where he was staying at the snowy lodge and overheard an argument from Emily's husband at the time, who was yelling at the woman on how to raise their son as a real man. Verbally berating his own wife and child, the man was calmly approached by Wolverine, who told him to stand down, where of course he wouldn't listen, and went to show his family how a real man acts, and went to fight the guy, only for Wolverine to slice his fingers off. Seemingly having a head thicker than actual adamantium, this guy, still not getting it, went to attack the mutant, only for him to give him his much-needed comeuppance by slicing his hand clean off. Before he could finish the job, Logan was then stopped by Emily, pleading for her husband's life. Cutting back to present day, we'd see the rather ferocious short King Wolverine snuggled up in a blankie by the fire, where Emily would bring him a bowl of soup, saying that she thought she would never see him again. Logan then informed her he had no idea how he even came here, and the last thing he could remember was fighting off the infection. Flynn, not fully trusting Logan after, slicing off his dad's hand, told him that one of the men in the town had seen him throwing up streams of disgusting black liquid all over the grounds of the town cemetery. Emily then told Flynn to go to his room and give Logan space to rest, where he agreed, but not before saying that the man reeked of BO. That's not the first person to say that. Do healing factors just not vibe with showers, or is Wolverine just a funky little fur man? Asking if Flynn was alright, Emily informed Wolverine that he was good, and hadn't turned out like his father, who was still alive, but hadn't bothered them since the day Logan stepped in. Hearing radio reports of the symbiote-infected zombies in New York, Emily asked Logan if he should be there helping others, where the man told her that he was a liability, and if he were to be infected again, he would do more harm than good, and would stay away until this was all over. Emily, seemingly being quite pleased that this hunky, hairy muscle man was staying for the winter, told him that he came to the right place, where we would see that not all was at peace, as things would cut to the village cemetery, as we'd see the corpses coming to life, crawling out of their frozen graves. These symbiote-possessed dead bodies would then make their way to what appeared to be Emily's abusive ex-husband, who seemed all too welcome to these undead invaders, to infecting him as well. The next issue opens in a flashback, where we see a younger version of the boy Flynn from the previous episode, along with his father Keen, as they were aboard a boat. Showing Flynn where his grandfather was buried, Keen then had the child recite what the most important thing to them was, and that was family. Family was so important to the man that he decided to let his son get in on the family business, where we see him and his men dangle a man near a whirlpool over the edge of the boat, torturing him because he was late on his rent. With the boy telling his father to stop, the cold-hearted Keen then told Flynn that if he really cared for this man's life, he was to hold on to his legs, literally holding his life in his hands, for there was something he wanted to show him. Things then forward to present day, where we see the older Flynn thinking back to whatever happened on that dreadful day, while Wolverine, still mentally recovering after being possessed by an undead symbiote, spoke with his mother Emily, who promised Logan that the boy was not like his father, whom Wolverine had saved them from all those years ago. Knowing that the boy definitely needed some positive male influence in his life, Emily asked Wolverine to speak to Flynn, where he begrudgingly did so. Knowing he was still reeling after whatever he had done with his father in the past, Logan then told Flynn that all of those things did not define him, and even though he may feel like an outcast, it was men like them that must choose who they wanted to be and not let society or their past carve their destinies for them. As Logan continued counseling to win some points with Flynn's baddie mom, we see things take a more sinister turn, where we then cut to a cabin in the middle of the town cemetery, where we see Flynn's father Keen was still alive, and was conversing with the town's deceased residents, who had now been resurrected by the zombiotes. He had even figured out a way to control the zombiotes through their weakness to sound, by using his hearing aid, which he had to use after Wolverine chopped off his ear, which emitted an ultra-high frequency, therefore amassing a zombie army of his own, which he then used to get revenge on Wolverine for taking his hands and his family from him. Later that night, Wolvie went to put the moves on Emily by popping a bottle of wine for them to enjoy, where his night of romance was rudely interrupted by a zombiote who was a dead ringer for DC's Lobo, who came crawling upon the cabin's ceiling. Rightfully annoyed, Logan grabbed the monster and threw it to the ground, where he pierced its brain with his claws. After giving that zombie a second one-way trip back to hell, Wolverine would see this was a full-on invasion, where he'd witness more of the creatures closing in on them. Once again activating his inner Hugh Jackman rage, the mutant then attacked the zombies, tearing them to shreds, only to witness them instantly repair themselves with their symbiotes as quickly as he attacked them. Realizing he may actually need some help with this one, Wolverine then pressed the distress signal on his belt buckle to alert his fellow X-Men that he was in danger. Things then cut outside, where we see the young Flynn making his way back to the cabin, where he hears the blood-curdling screams of his mother. Rushing to see what was the matter, Flynn walked in on Logan locked in combat with the monsters, where he told the kid to stay back and promptly evacuated the both of them outside. Of course, now of all times, Flynn would have to pull out some ignorant, and let's admit some rather stupid teenage angst, where he got all mad at Wolverine, asking what did he bring to their home. First of all, bro, he just saved you and your mom's life. Second of all, there's a zombie right behind you. The zombiote would then go to take a chomp out of the boy. However, he was then saved by his deadbeat dad Keen, who stepped in to act as some kind of hero, when in reality he was there with his zombie boys, to get revenge on Wolverine for taking his life from him. Turning to his son, Keen apologized for not being present in his life, but now felt he had the power to make things right and take back what Emily and Logan broke, where Emily then told the man that it was his cruelty that tore their family apart. The hot-tempered man then screamed at the woman, telling her that he is this family, and that he chose power for them, and most importantly his son, and was here to remind him of the man he was, and not the weakling his mother tried to make him. Things then flash back to the beginning of this issue, where we see the younger Keen and Flynn, where the man had his son dangle the other person over the side of the boat who owed him money. We then see that Keen had ordered his men to step back and had only Flynn hold on to the person with tears in his eyes, where he told his father that he was too heavy, where the cold and callous Keen then told him that if he truly felt this person was worth saving, Flynn would figure it out on his own. As Flynn screamed for his dad to help him save the man, Keen then asked if he was worth saving, where we then see just what happened on that day. The boy had responded with a panicked no, leading us to believe that the child had murdered a man on that day under the instruction of his ruthless father, who believed that he was just like him. Seeing the conflict in the boy, Logan then told him that he was not his father, no matter what he did, and that family was supposed to build you up, not tear you down. Seemingly breaking through to Flynn, the young man then told Keen to get away from him, where his father's black heart grew even darker, telling his own son that if he weren't with him, he was against him, where he then commanded his new family to kill everyone present. However, before these zombies could even hope to get a bite, they were instantly blown to pieces by the responding X-Men who answered Wolverine's distress call. Man, something about Nightcrawler using his dual blades to slice a zombie's head open just checks all the right boxes for me. Not about to go out without taking someone with him, Keen then grabbed Emily and told her that it was her fault their son was weak and turned against him, and this time, he was going to kill her for real. Flynn then cried out to his father, pleading for his mother's life, telling him this was the full-on X-Men here, and that this fight was over. Seeing that the guy was not backing down, Logan then told Flynn that while he promised he wasn't the violent man he once was, he knew that Keen would not ever stop unless he brought a piece of that animal back. In the very next panel, Logan would then slice the man's head clean off, sending it tumbling to the snowy grounds, where Jubilee would then crush his hearing aid, ending this threat for good. Later on, Nightcrawler would confirm that he had teleported all the town's infected to the vault for safekeeping. With Wolverine thanking his teammates for the assist, they asked him if he would come back to New York with them to deal with more of the infected, where he then turned to Emily and told them that he planned on staying here for a while to help keep this town safe. Come on, bro. You aren't fooling nobody. We know why you're staying. While it would seem like this threat was over, we would see things take yet another sinister turn, where we see Flynn looking over the hero's conversations from his bedroom window. He would then turn his gaze to a garbage bag sitting on his bed, where he'd constantly replay his father's words in his head about deciding on the man he was going to be, and would he be weak all his life, or would he choose strength? He would then open the bag, revealing that he kept his father's decapitated head, which was now infected with the zombie-oat virus. Wanting to choose strength, the foolish child allowed himself to be bitten by the head, now too becoming infected with the undead alien virus. The final issue opens where we see Emily giving a farewell to Wolverine, thanking the man for saving her and her son from the venomized zombies that were plaguing their town. As Logan headed out the door, he was stopped by the woman, who clearly had feelings for him, and asked if he would stay for her and her son to be the positive male role model they never had, on account of the years of abuse she had faced from her ex-husband Keen, who had come into contact with a symbiote recently and was rightfully sliced to bits by Wolverine after trying to kill Emily and her son. Not believing he was good enough of a man to fill that family void, Logan gave his final goodbyes and drove off into the distance. During his journey into the bitter winter cold, Wolverine began to have second thoughts as he thought of Emily's son Flynn. The boy had just lost his father, who had mentally manipulated him for years, and was now left all alone to deal with the aftermath. Logan knew he wasn't the best man for the job, but decided to head back to the snowy village in Maine so he could attempt to aid the troubled youth, not fully realizing the sinister severity of the situation. In the last issue, Flynn had secretly kept and infected himself with his dead father's zombified head, purposefully turning himself into one of their members. Arriving back to the inn, Wolverine discovered that he may have been too late as he saw a bloodied corpse right at the building entrance. Making his way inside, the mutant would see the rather disturbing aftermath of the infected Flynn's assault, where he saw countless bodies buried in rubble and blood splashed upon the walls, Emily completely missing. Tearing open his coat, revealing his iconic yellow and blue uniform, Logan dashed outside into the ivory storm, using his superhuman abilities to track the scent of death, one that would hopefully lead him to the infected child. As he would get closer and closer, the X-Man would climb a mountain, where, much to his horror, would be grabbed into a horde of symbiotic undead, all clawing for their bits of mutant flesh. Fighting against his attackers, Logan would soon see their leader, which was the infected Flynn, whose body had now merged with the head of his father, resulting in a disturbing venom zombie amalgamation which held his own mother hostage. Yelling out for Emily, Wolverine would witness the zombiote beast gallop away to the shore, where it would come across a boat and would viciously kill the fisherman on board and hijack the vessel, all while his mother pleaded for her life, asking where he was taking her. Not willing to allow more innocents to die, Logan's ferocity kicked in, where he tore into the mountain of zombified attackers. Covered in the blood of the undead, the mutant rushed through the bitter cold, where he came to a cliffside and witnessed the boat journeying out to sea. Not having the time to even think about his next move, the man instinctively dived down to the waters below, where he kinda missed the water and came smacking down upon the rocks, turning into a gory mess of busted muscle tissue and organs. While this would have killed literally anyone else, our boy Wolverine's healing factor would kick in, as the current would then carry him out to sea. We would see that his body's torture had just begun, where his adamantium skeleton would then cause him to immediately sink to the seabed, creating a non-stop cycle of life and death, where he would drown over and over again. Aboard the ship, the horrified Emily would try to speak to the humanity within her son, where the sickening voice of Keen would take over, calling the boy weak. Believing this weakness to be a result of Emily's upbringing of the boy, Keen then dangled the poor woman over the ocean waves, where he planned to kill her. Just in the nick of time, Logan, full of seawater and even fuller of Keen's nonsense, emerged and combated the beast, where the boat would be torn to pieces. Managing to cut Emily free, the mutant soon realized he had played right into the creature's hands, as it pinned him to the ground, slicing and piercing his flesh. It would then pull him closer and bite down right upon his head, where his healing factor would soon be overridden, becoming an infected zombie-oat Wolverine once more. Absolutely sick of her ex-husband's insanity, the freed Emily used this distraction to grab the boat's sonar device and used its sound waves to melt the symbiote off Flynn and Keen, bringing them back to normal. Well, as normal as Keen could be. Bro is still an abusive and manipulative scumbag who's a rotting head. Bro deserves the zombie Deadpool microwave treatment, if I'm being honest. Comforting the boy, saying that he was now safe and free of the symbiote's control, we'd see that it wasn't the alien making him act this way, as Flynn began shouting at his mother, still under the belief that she made him weak. The very disturbed young man would then rush to the ship's controls and pilot it towards a forming whirlpool, where he attempted to kill both his mother and himself. Before the pair could fall overboard, they were snatched by the symbiotic webs of the infected Wolverine, who then pulled Flynn close and in a demonic-sounding voice asked if he were worth saving. Before he could turn the boy into lunch, Logan's healing factor once again kicked into overdrive right at the last moment, as it would expunge the infected slime right through his flesh. Puking out the rest of the alien bile, Wolverine and the rest would brace for impact as the ship would come smashing into the raging whirlpool. Later on, we'd see the battered Logan come ashore, revealing that he managed to save both Emily and Flynn. The heartbroken woman would then confide in the hero, saying that it wasn't just the symbiotes trying to kill her on this day. It was her very own son, acting on his own volition. Not gonna lie guys, I was kinda hoping Flynn didn't make it. Any dude who goes to hurt his own mom is an absolute loser. Asking Logan if he planned on staying this time, the mutant then collapsed to the dock floor and told her that for now, he was just going to sit here and wait for this all to blow over.